Ooh, I am, I am sleepy. I am sleepy today. Sleepy, sleepy stream, most likely. Oh, oh. What was my Lord of the Rings thoughts this week? There were many. I had many thoughts. Um, Lots of them were surrounding Lord of the Rings Online because of various things I'm doing on it. And hello, hello, excellent. Oh, we've got Spectral and Honeybee, excellent. Good, good, good. Yes. So we're just yeah. Yes, I thought I started trying to make a meme, and then I was like, no, no, I can't do this one this today. This is not funny. This one isn't good. There's nothing funny about this part. So I'm just not going to. So yeah, so this week we are just going to read. I think it's basically about 3 pages. No, it's more than that, but it's not that many pages. And then we get to the Ride of the Rohirrim. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, about 4 pages. We're going to get through 4 pages today. And that will be it because I just can't get into the Ride of the Rohirrim after this. I need some good splits. But yes. So, oh, hello, Lowens. Oh, that's lovely to have you in. Yes, it has been a while since you've been able to catch one live. Well, good to have you. Excellent to have you. You've come in. You've returned at one of the most grueling ones. Um, this one's gonna be hard. This one for me and Des it's gonna be a lot for us. It's gonna be a lot for us. But we're gonna get through it together. Um, what was I thinking of? I was re-listening to the for the for in I always try to re-listen to the last one before I start this one. Um, oh, it's Kaz too. Excellent, good. Well, I guess Kaz also could be here to see me and Des break down uh over fictional men. And Mikey as well. Well, that's good. Got our we can. I think we can. But my point was that yeah. So I was re-listening to the last one, and um like that that end bit is fucked up. The last bit we left off of is fucked up. I keep forgetting how because like every now like most of the book you're reading it and it's very and all of the imagery tends to be very compelling except for the parts where Tolkien is like they go up a ditch and down a road and round the bend and to the left and etc 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 but the but like this but then every now and then he introduces you to horror. He's like, this book is going to be a horror book. This is going to be a horror section of this book, and you are going to feel dread, and he does it really well. He does do it very well. Um, uh, well, I'm not going to be able to watch the Foundation finale. Unfortunately, tonight. This is the last. I'm using the last of the energy that I have for today to do this. So I'm afraid if you want me to pop in, then it won't be today for me. But go ahead and watch it without me if you can't keep yourselves waiting. I fully I fully endorse that. It was quite nice watching it with watching the rest catching up with Antonia and a lot of other people who actually knew what was going on. Yes, yes, I agree with that. Like Yes, there's I mean so there's the horror of um there's the bit where it's where you have the heads being thrown over the wall. And it does sound that I mean that is very Hollywood. And again, this comes back around to our concept of the idea of Tolkien being like um yes. Yes. The hungering for flesh. Like it's really terrifying. Um yeah, the deadly voice and there's what was it? Dread and despair. Stout-hearted. What was it? I do know. Yes, yeah, vultures expect their fill of doomed men's flesh. Um but it comes back to my mind in the concept of like this idea that the book is explicitly anti-war, and it doesn't gel with me because anti-war books, or at least anti-war books that I think are most effective, make war boring. But and I mean, I understand that there's also, I mean, yes, no, there's also a very important element of showing the reality of war, but this is very, this whole section is very it's using war as a way of manipulating your emotions. Like you are feeling a lot of emotions that are specific to war, and it is, and by the end of it, you do not feel like you wish that hadn't happened because it is. I mean, the actually, while I was reading it, while I was listening to it again, what it actually reminded me of most was actually the Magnus archives. I was reading it again and I was thinking this some of the wording and the way that it's worded is almost exactly like the Magnus archives discussion of like the eye and this horror of being viewed. And that was making me think back to Denethor's whole discussion of what what it will be like, which we'll get to later, what it will be like if Sauron was to succeed, if Sauron was to actually win, and it's then and one of the things he says is that you no thought will be hidden from him. So it's again it's this horror of uh, of of stark brutal vulnerability without any consent or and with only malice in mind, like a malicious eye that is perpetually looking and then there's no way to get away from it. So and I was reading it and I was thinking, yes, I'm almost certain that there were sections of it which were almost yeah malicious perception. Yeah, it's so and it is so horrifying, and that is uh and it's just surprising. It's surprising in how the book's writing changes whole genres sometimes is I guess what I'm saying. There are whole genre shifts in this book where we might be reading a fantasy story about hobbits having a trip through over some hills and stuff, and that might be for a good majority, a good number of pages. It'll go on for a while, and then suddenly it's horrifying. It's a horror story, and I love it very much. I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I used to say that I hated horror, but actually what I hate was jump scares. And actually now that I'm since listening to the Magnus archives, I fucking love horror. Maybe I actually really like horror, and it was just that I didn't like jump scares, and I didn't like this sort of tense feeling that you're like where you're just waiting to be spooked. Don't like that. I like latent sort of leaden horror. That's more interesting to me. But yeah, the Nazgûl flying over the top of them all, circling the city unseen but seeing all, and causing this persistent dread that slowly wears you down to the point where men just stop thinking of defending the city, and now all they're thinking about is running and hiding. And that also again very Magnus archives, like the like it really was I'm sorry if I'm unintentionally spoiling the Magnus Archives from anybody who hasn't seen it yet. Um, but yeah, no, it was very compelling. What else was I thinking about? I mean, it's just been a lot of me thinking about Denethor for a long time. It's just been a lot of me thinking about Denethor for a long time. Um, I was surprised that my post about. Well, no, I wasn't surprised because this is the thing. As soon as I make a post that's like Denethor positive but in a Faramir positive light, suddenly everybody wants in on it. They all want in on it. They all want in on the if you make Denethor evil, you are also taking away from Faramir's heroism. You're taking away from Faramir's heroism by making Denethor evil. Um, which I stand by. But it's very funny to me that immediately it's everyone can't get enough of that post. Can't get enough of that one. Um, what else is I thinking of? I think that was basically it. And actually, again, we this is not going to be a long. This is not going to be a long stream. We only have about 4 pages to get through. But those 4 pages um are a mental catastrophe. This this is a catastrophe in Slip One, and we've got 9 viewers. So let's get into it. It does not take long to get into it. Switch to the stream, and I'm the chat stream highlight is all about spiders today. is the spider loving the spider delight that we all had last time. Right. Good lord. Okay. Okay. During all this black day, Faramir lay upon his bed in the chamber of the White Tower, wandering in a desperate fever, dying, someone said, and soon dying all men were saying upon the walls and in the streets, and by him his father sat, and said nothing, but watched, and gave no longer any heed to the defence. No hours so dark had Pippin known, not even in the clutches of the Uruk-hai. It was his duty to wait upon the Lord, and wait he did, forgotten it seemed, standing by the door of the unlit chamber, mastering his own fears as best he could. And as he watched, it seemed to him that Denethor grew old before his eyes, as if something had snapped in his proud will, and his stern mind was overthrown. Grief maybe had wrought it, and remorse. He saw tears on that once tearless face, more unbearable than wrath. "Do not weep, lord," he stammered. "Perhaps he will get well. Have you asked Gandalf?" "Comfort me not with wizards," said Denethor. "The fool's hope has failed. The enemy has found it, and now his power waxes. He sees our very thoughts, and all we do is ruin us. I sent my son forth unthanked, unblessed, out into needless peril, and here he lies with poison in his veins. Nay, nay, whatever now may betide in war, my line too is ending. Even the house of the stewards has failed. Mean folk shall rule the last remnant of the kings of men, lurking in the hills until all are hounded out." Men came to the door, crying for the lord of the city. "Nay, I will not come down," he said. "I must stay beside my son. He might speak before the end, but that is near. Follow whom you will, even the grey fool, though his hope has failed. Here I stay." We have to stop. We have to stop. Because this actually confirms Des is a whole this we have it's the confirmation here. Again, Tom Shippey, peer review is a joke. Peer review is a joke. Tom Shippey is a fool. Denethor went up to the tower. He had a look in the Palantir. He is. There's so much, and I literally have to. But what I'm looking at here, what I'm looking at first, before we get into the rest, is Denethor saying, "The fool's hope has failed. The enemy has found it." Um, which is something he says as if he knows. So this is the confirmation that Denethor saw the ring, and saw that Frodo was captured. Surely this is the confirmation that Denethor saw the ring, and that Frodo was captured, and he um that's why that's the straw that broke the camel's back, because again this is the time when he looks so and then of course we have to get to um the fucking oh no, doesn't fucking care about Faramir. What are you fucking talking about? What are you talking about? He doesn't care. Doesn't care about Faramir. Really? Are you sure? Are you sure? Like what? It's so like to me it's so obvious. I don't understand, because to me it's so obvious that you have a situation of two men arguing and being very stressed and therefore saying things that they do not necessarily mean to each other, and then the like he might yet speak. I like Denethor is literally okay. So this is the thing. At this, so Denethor was fighting with Faramir because Faramir he felt was actively working against the needs of Gondor, which is his responsibility. But now when Denethor is faced with the fact of Faramir dying in front of him because of his efforts for the city and his efforts to uh uh uh, uh continue and defend Gondor, Denethor is saying, no, actually, it wasn't worth it. Actually, my son was more important. Actually, this was my responsibility. I was responsible for all these people. I know that, but actually, it wasn't worth it. It actually wasn't worth it, and actually, the only thing that is important to me at this moment is Faramir, and I actually don't. That's it. I'm done. I'm finished. I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not putting my family over beneath the cares of this rod and this service that I have been bound to from birth. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not coming down because Faramir might speak before the end. It's so poignant. It's so poignant. What what is it? What is it about the other? What is it about this? Like, where in here is this man who's just completely like evil and just awful and has no feelings whatsoever? Like, and why is that more interesting? Why do people want that? Why is that the wanted thing? Hello, Raglos. I'm fine, and I'm not crying either. Um, Also, the line, he saw tears on that once tearless face more unbearable than wrath. Hello. Like, he's sitting there, he's sitting there crying over his son. He's sitting there crying over his son, who is dying in front of him, and and people want to look me in the eye. They want to come into my fucking replies on my posts and be like, actually, Denethor is irredeemable, and it doesn't care about Faramir, and actually, he's hated Faramir forever. He's always hated him. By the way, just so you know, he's always hated Faramir. This is an abuse. And why is this the abusive dad who is regretting, who wants to say sorry, who knows that he let his duty, the thing that he's responsible for so many people. Why is this scene the one with the father that is abusive, whereas Theoden, man who never says his son's name in the book, who is dead, and man who literally just allowed Theodore to essentially sacrifice himself, because that's what he did. He knew that was what was happening, but he did it anyway in order to spare Rohan any time. Theodred, who essentially took on his father's whole responsibility without complaint, and just died in that attempt. And then Theoden doesn't have a single good word to say about him. That not a single good word, not a single good word to say about Theodred. As and that is, and I'm supposed to think that like Theoden is like a good, warm, oh such a fluffy, nice dad, because he treats the remaining children that are there with like a kind of faux fatherhood. Like he says, you know, he says to Aemon like, I'll call you my son, like literally. Just died, and he's like, "Oh, well, Eomer, my son, because you are my son. I don't have another one, apparently." And like, listen, I don't want that to be the case. I don't want Theoden because that does seem to be like when I think about Theoden doing this. When I think about Theoden and doing this, and him having no words to say about Theoden, it does feel like this kind of weirdly, like completely I can't find any like good explanation for him doing that is nuanced and interesting. But the fact that I can't um doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you just allowed to forget that that's what Theoden did and change everything that Denethor does. When Theoden literally abandoned both of his responsibilities whilst Denethor was desperately trying to marry the two of them, the responsibility that he had to his family and the responsibility that he had to his to the whole kingdom of Gondor that he is holding in trust. I don't think that's the only explanation. I don't think that's the only explanation. Well, I mean, I guess, but I don't know, but the thing is, I don't care about it. I don't care if it was an authorial mistake because this is the way the book is. You can't keep going back and forth about wondering what Tolkien might have meant to do or whether it was a mistake or whatever. This is the book he published, and so we have to take the characters as he is giving them to us because there's no other way to do it. So we are now in charge, and we have to find a reason for why Theoden does it. And the only reason I can think of is that Theoden is actually very self-serving, a very self-serving person, and really just an yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. He would forget his son's birthday. I mean, it's so funny. Yeah, but he doesn't interact that much with Merry. I mean, I guess he does. He makes him sit next to him and tell him tales, but he doesn't interact with him that much. He talks to him a bit, but he's always very patronizing to Merry when Denethor really isn't. Again, what is it? What is it? Why is the time when Theoden who is like, no, don't go fighting, even though you want to. I'm not. I'm going to accept your pledge, but only really to humor you. I'm only really humoring you. I'm not actually going to accept that you are a real a person who wants to do something. And I'm not going to allow you this situation. I'm not gonna talk about it. And then, meanwhile, it is because I know it's because of the movies, but the thing is, Kaz, the thing is that sometimes people come into my replies and they're like, "Oh no, listen, listen, no, it's not about the films. It's not about the films. I read the books and I always hated Denethor, and I always liked Theoden, and that's what people say to me. I've had people say this. I don't know if they're lying, but I'm sure some of them aren't lying. Exactly. Well, I mean, that's true. Yes, exactly. They are wrong. I feel less tired now. I'm psyched now, I suppose. But listen, Bernard Hill was amazing in that role. I still think about when he's sobbing in front of like it's just so crazy. Like they literally create a scene that not only is not there in the books, is actively is cannot be there in the books. There is no way that Theoden could have wept over his son's grave. Because he passed it by. Like he passed it by. Yeah, Theoden does get a whole ass arc. He gets a whole arc. He's much more, discussive with you honeybee, you shut up. It's yeah, I mean, in the books, his arc is really very. Well, in the books, he doesn't really have an arc actually. Because again, I say this a lot. None of the characters in the books actually change all that much. There is no real actual change to any of the characters in the books, barring perhaps the hobbits. The hobbits are the characters um where they are the ones that are like they're changing and they're seeing new things and their worldview is being shifted and all of that. None of the other characters are really like I don't think if you couldn't find a single character in my mind whose worldview changes, who isn't a hobbit. I mean, I guess except maybe Faramir. Faramir's worldview changes minutely in that he goes from being hopeless and therefore being like, ah, never mind, I'll just whatever, to being like fully into Aragorn. I mean, I guess his character development is that he falls in love with Aragorn. But other than that, like none of them actually. I mean, that's still not a really a worldview change. Like none of their worldviews change at any stage, because the book is not about characters. The book is about the story, and it's mainly about the hobbits. So, well, that's me saying the book is about when I've already gone on a long rant about how the book is about being a good book. But that's the point. It's about being a good book. But yes, exactly. Like I still cry at that. I still cry at that scene. No parent should have to bury their child. But you know who should have been able to who should have said that? Fucking Denethor should have had that line. Like it's absolutely mind-blowing to me. It's I would say that the films aren't even the same story. They aren't even the same story because they end differently, and they well they end very differently because the films end in like they cut off the whole like resolution, like the whole culmination of the Hobbit story. Whereas in the books, you have them, defeating Sauron, but that's not the end of it. They have to bring this home now, and that's the important. I don't think so. I don't think Frodo's maintains itself. I don't think that the story. I do not. I do not. Like I say, I accept that it is a. It still manages to be a complete story. It's a different one. It's a different story. It's because from Frodo I disagree because it's not for him. Because that's not the story of the book. The story of the book is he goes, he saves the world, but then it's important that it comes home. It's important that it comes home with him and not in this kind of just internal way. It should come home with him properly, with the rest of the hobbits understanding this as well. I and the changes to Frodo's character as well make it a different story. It's a different it feels different. It feels different. It hits different. Um okay. But like um yeah, the films and the books are different stories. Told with different characters and with different points. Uh, Mainly, the films have a point or have a moral point. They're trying to say something. Whereas I'm not entirely sure if the books are, or at least they're saying a lot of stuff confusingly. But the end result is that it's very fun to read and a good book. Okay. I hate. Yeah, I hate. I also hate that he got this like Peter Jackson went and found my line 2 is ending, even the House of the Stewards has failed. And and was like and was like, "Oh, he means that he's sad about his line ending." And then just took that and ran with it when Denethor is saying the stewards have failed, as in failed Gondor. like, like he's literally changing the whole meaning of everything that happens in this scene. I'm one day I'll just become a werewolf. I'll like just turn into a werewolf. All this restrained anger that I have, become a werewolf, and I'll just hunt Peter Jackson down, and then and then shake him in my jaws like a rag doll. Yeah, exactly, exactly. We have read half a page. Okay. Also, comfort me not with wizards. Uh, uh, is a line that is so telling. He's so angry at him. He's so angry at him. Like he's so like Denethor could say he's so enraged at this man who he blames for so much. He doesn't blame for everything because it is his fault. He's guilty here, but he's so angry at Gandalf for his just complete lack of care. Just no empathy, no feeling, no thought, all manipulation. I Anyway, um confirmed atheist Denver. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he is really. I mean, well, God abandoned him. God abandoned Denethor. I'm saying this for Desser specifically. God abandoned Denethor. He didn't abandon Denethor didn't abandon him. God abandoned Denethor because he said you are going to have to do this, and then just made it almost impossible for him to do it. Even he sent these angels, who had no sympathy for him at all, no sympathy for his position. Personally abandoned by God, yes. He was personally abandoned by, and it's and I have to say that narrative fucks real hard. The narrative goes very hard. But anyway, we're gonna keep reading. We're gonna keep reading. Because no, sorry, Denethor did trust in the angels. He wanted to. He wanted help. Denethor does not. He doesn't tell Gandalf to fuck off. He even now, even at the very end, when Gandalf has not helped him at all. I'm so sorry, honeybee. Um, when Gandalf hasn't helped him at all, but even at the end of all things for Denethor at least, Denethor still says, "Just come, wake me whenever you need. I will be here. I will talk to you. I will ask for your help. I will keep you informed about what's going on here. I will tell you about all of the things that I'm doing." He never once told Gandalf to leave, but Gandalf left him, and so in a very symbolic way and in a very real way, God abandoned Denethor and his family, except for Faramir, because Faramir is Catholic, or at least isn't angry about it. Anyway, all right, we have to talk about Gandalf now. Anyway, so it was that Gandalf took command of the last defense of the city of Gondor. Wherever he came, men's hearts would lift again, and the winged shadows passed from memory. Tirelessly he strode from the citadel to the gate, from north to south about the wall, and with him went the Prince of Dol Amroth in his shining mail, for he and his knights still held themselves like lords in whom the race of Numenor rang true. Men that saw them whispered, saying, "Belike the old tales speak well." There is elvish blood in the veins of that folk, for the people of Nimrodel dwelt in that land once long ago. And then one would sing amid the gloom that some staves of the lay of Nimrodel, or the other songs of the Vale of Anduin out of the vanished years. And yet, when they had gone, the shadows closed on men again, and their hearts went cold, and the valor of Gondor withered into ash, and so slowly they passed out of a dim day of fears into the darkness of a desperate night. Fires now raged unchecked in the first circle of the city, and the garrison upon the outer wall was already in many places cut off from the retreat. But the faithful, who remained there at their posts, were few. Most had fled beyond the second gate. Exactly, honeybee, exactly! No help comes for Denethor. Anyway. Far behind the battle, the river had been swiftly bridged, and all the day more force and gear of war had poured across. Now at last, in the middle night, the assault was loosed. The vanguard passed through the trenches of fire, by many devious paths that had been left between them. On they came, reckless of their loss, as they approached, still bunched and herded, within the range of bowmen on the wall. But indeed there were too few now left there to do them great damage, though the light of the fires showed up many a mark for the archers of such skill as Gondor once had boasted. Then, perceiving that the valor of the city was already beaten down, the hidden captain put forth his strength. Slowly the great siege towers built in Osgiliath rolled forward through the dark. Yes. Yes, exactly. Imrahil obviously acting on Denethor's behalf to lead, but Gandalf making sure that he gets characterized as the Prince of Dol Amroth, as if the Prince of Dol Amroth is just his sidekick. I had to read that one out because it's so right, so correct. Um, Messengers came again to the chamber in the White Tower. I'm interested in the sequence of events here. So they crossed the river in boats first because they weren't able to bridge the gap between on of the bridge of Osgiliath. Um uh uh and and so then they made camp across the river, and they had run Osgiliath through, and they finally had the space and time, and of course the ability to build siege towers because they weren't going to be able to take them across by boat, obviously. So they brought all of this. They had to not build them before they got across the river, and then they managed to actually bridge the river now that they're on both sides. So they had a bridge there. So again, I have to keep coming back to this. If Denethor hadn't demanded that they still keep the river crossing and still tried to defend Osgiliath, this would have happened 3 days ago. Uh, yes, exactly, Des, exactly. These even if Denethor is not there, he's long laid these plans. This is not something that he didn't plan for, but men who stayed in the lower circle at their posts, even though their escape routes were being cut off, and they knew they'd be trapped and eventually killed if they stayed. This is their city. I know. Like, I mean, the way that this is, because of course the Nazgul have been held back for so long because of this. This is why the Nazgul have been held back for so long. They haven't been out, and that this fear hasn't been on the people of Minas Tirith, because if they had shown themselves too early, then the people of Minas Tirith would have figured out a way to defend against it. Like for example, Athelas, which they haven't had to use up until this point. But now, because it came so suddenly, they are not prepared for this. They were unprepared, and they were unprepared when Boromir first encountered them. So it's this like all of these carefully laid plans. Um, but it's always mildly impossible to plan for everything that Sauron is going to throw at you, and yet still the main plan is always that there will be some valor in some of the men of Gondor will show enough valor to remain and to keep the defenses while they can, which they did, despite what this said. They did keep the defenses for a while at least. Um, yeah, and a lot of men died just holding their posts, which is grueling. Messengers came again to the chamber in the White Tower, and Pippin let them enter, for they were urgent. Denethor turned his head slowly from Faramir's face, and looked at them silently. "The first circle of the city is burning, lord," they said. "What are your commands? You are still the lord and steward. Not all will follow Mithrandir. Men are flying from the walls and leaving them unmanned." Why, why do the fools fly? Said Denethor. Better to burn sooner than late, for burn we must. Go back to your bonfire, and I will go now to my pyre. To my pyre! No tomb for Denethor and Faramir. No tomb! No long slow sleep of death embalmed. We will burn like heathen kings before there ever a ship sailed hither from the west. The west has failed. Go back and burn. The messengers, without bow or answer, turned and fled. Now Denethor stood up and released the fevered hand of Faramir that he had held. He is burning, already burning, he said sadly. The house of his spirit crumbles. Then stepping softly towards Pippin, he looked down at him. Farewell, he said. Farewell, Peregrine, son of Paladin. Your service has been short, and now it is drawing to an end. I release you from the little that remains. Go now and die in what way seems best to you, and with whom you will, even that friend whose folly brought you to this death. Send for my servants and then go. Farewell. I will not say farewell, my lord, said Pippin, kneeling, and then suddenly, hobbit-like once more, he stood up and looked the old man in the eyes. I will take your leave, sir, he said, for I want to see Gandalf very much indeed, but he is no fool, and I will not think of dying until he despairs of life. But from my word and your service, I do not wish to be released while you live, and if they come at last to the citadel, I hope to be here and stand beside you and earn perhaps the arms that you have given me. Do as you will, Master Halfling, said Denethor, but my life is broken. Send for my servants. He turned back to Faramir. Exactly! He said they won't have me even in death. And he did not just mean Sauron. You're right, exactly, you got it. I mean, he literally says it, the West has failed. That's him saying that's him saying it. He's saying the West has failed, which is literally God. He's talking about God. The West has failed. That is. He's talking about Gandalf, and he's talking about everything that comes with Gandalf. Um, and uh, and it's and he's not releasing Pippin as he's not releasing Pippin because he's patronizing him. He's saying, I'm allowing you to whatever you need. Usually, if you were my esquire, then you would have to stay by my side this whole time. But you don't have to do that. Uh, and uh, and then Pippin is like, no, I'm not gonna be released. I still want to. I'm still here. I'm still going to be. Yeah. uh, yes, exactly. The entire fucking narrative that the West has constructed in their rights to rule in Middle Earth and applying to Aragorn's hallowed nature, his king adorned, anointed by God nature. He's so gentle. Exactly. Exactly. He's I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter because actually it doesn't, because Sauron, the reason Sauron propaganda works is because some of it is right. Listen, sometimes propaganda has elements of truth to it. It's almost as though if your all systems of power have elements of bad to them, and Denethor had a right to Denethor had this right. He had a right to be angry. He had a right to be angry, and he had a right to not want. Yes, exactly. He's having a heathen's funeral. He's saying no. This time, I am now. This is me. This is me checking out. I was faithful because he was a faithful man in that he believed, but he's not letting them have his death. it's a heathen's funeral because you are because I'm not allying myself with you. I'm not a this is not you won't have me. You don't have me. You're not allowed to have me or my son. You're not allowed to have me or my son. He's just not he's saying you're not allowed to have me or my son who you killed. You killed him. And you killed my other son as well. And he's dead thousands of miles away from me, and I could do nothing for him. But this son I can do something for. You won't have him. And uh like it fucking kills me. It kills me dead. Um he doesn't want to lay in the Hall of the Kings. Okay. Pippin left him and called for the servants, and they came, 6 men of the household, strong and fair, yet they trembled at the summons. But in a quiet voice, Denethor bade them lay warm coverlets on Faramir's bed and take it up, and they did so, and lifting up the bed, they bore it from the chamber. Slowly they paced, to trouble the fevered man as little as might be, and Denethor, now bending on a staff, followed him, and last came Pippin. Exactly, exactly. Yes, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. He's not. It's not just that he's saying he needs them all to see it as well. He wants to come to the most hallowed place. Warm covers. He wants to come to the most hallowed place in Gondor, which is the Silent Street, the Hall of Kings Undying, and with them and all of their stone cold but never changing visages of all these kings who um who are weighing on him and have weighed on him for his whole life. They need to see what has happened, what they've done. They need to see it and understand that he's not there. He's not theirs anymore. Oh, yeah, like again, this wording is so gentle, and he was holding his hand the whole time. He was holding his hand the whole time. He has to. The only time he releases Faramir's hand is to turn to Pippin. Stand up and turn to Pippin and say farewell to Pippin. That's the only time he lets go of Faramir's hand. Um, Yes, exactly. You want to guard us to guard Elendil's bones and keep them safe? Well, I guess we will. I guess that's what we're doing. Let's bring the whole house down. Let's bring the whole fucking house down. Ugh, okay. Out from the White Tower they walked, as if to a funeral, out into the darkness, where the overhanging cloud was lit beneath with flickers of dull red. Softly they paced the great courtyard, and at a word from Denethor halted beside the withered tree. All was silent, save for the rumour of war in the city down below, and they heard the water dripping sadly from the dead branches into the dark pool. Then they went on through the citadel gate, where the sentinels stared at them in wonder and dismay as they passed by. Turning westward, they came at length to a door in the rearward wall of the sixth circle. Fen Holland it was called, for it was kept ever shut, save at times of funeral, and only the lord of the city might use that way, or those who bore the token of the tombs and tended the houses of the dead. Beyond it went a winding road that descended in many curves down to the narrow land under the shadow of Mindaluin's precipice, where stood the mansions of the dead kings and of their stewards. A porter sat in a little house beside the way, and with fear in his eyes he came forth bearing a lantern in his hand. At the lord's command he unlocked the door, and silently it swung back, and they passed through, taking the lantern from his hand. It was dark on the climbing road, between ancient halls and many pillared balusters, looming in the swaying lantern beam. Their slow feet echoed as they walked down, down, until, at last, they came to the silent street, Rath Dinnen, between pale domes and empty halls and images of men long dead, and they entered into the house of the stewards and set down their burden. There Pippin, staring uneasily about him, saw that he was in a wide vaulted chamber, draped as it were with the great shadows that the little lantern threw upon its shrouded walls. Blah, blah. He halted beside the tree. He did. And dimly to be seen were many rows of tables, carved of marble, and upon each table lay a sleeping form, hands folded, head pillowed upon stone. But one table near at hand stood broad and bare. Upon it, at a sign from Denethor, they laid Faramir and his father side by side, and covered them with one covering, and stood then with bowed heads as mourners beside a bed of death. Then Denethor spoke in a low voice. "Here we will wait," he said. "But send not for the embalmers. Bring us wood quick to burn, and lay it all about us and beneath, and pour oil upon it. And when I bid you thrust in a torch, do this and speak no more to me. Farewell." "By your leave, lord," said Pippin, turned and fled in terror from the deathly house. "Poor Faramir," he thought. "I must find Gandalf. Poor Faramir! Quite likely he needs medicine more than tears. Oh, where can I find Gandalf? In the thick of things, I suppose, and he will have no time to spare for dying men or madmen." Ugh. At the door he turned to one of the servants who had remained on guard there. "Your master is not himself," he said. "Go slow. Bring no fire to this place while Faramir lives. Do nothing until Gandalf comes." "Who is the master of Minas Tirith?" the man answered. "The Lord Denethor or the Grey Wanderer?" "The Grey Wanderer or no one, it would seem," said Pippin, and he sped back and up the winding way as swiftly as his feet would carry him, past the astonished porter, out through the door and on, till he came near the gate of the citadel. The sentinel hailed him as he went by, and he recognized the voice of Beregond. "Whither do you run, Master Peregrine?" he cried. "To find Mithrandir," Pippin answered. "The Lord's errands are urgent, and should not be hindered by me," said Beregond. "But tell me quickly, if you may, what goes forward. Whither has my lord gone? I have just come on duty, but I heard that he had passed through the closed door, and men were bearing Faramir with him." "Yes," said Pippin, "to the Silent Street." Beregond bowed his head to hide his tears. I do see it. we'll get, well, we're going to unpack that later. We're going to unpack the whole Palantir thing later. But you're right. Yes, he's timing it very specifically, and there's a lot to be thought about in terms of Denethor's actual purposes of what he's doing here. Beregond bowed his head to hide his tears. "They said that he was dying," he sighed, "and now he is dead." "No," said Pippin, "not dead. No," said Pippin, "not yet. And even now his death might be prevented, I think. But the lord of the city, Beregond, has fallen before the city is taken. He is fey and dangerous." Quickly he told of Denethor's strange words and deeds. "I must find Gandalf at once." "Then you must go down to the battle." "I know. The Lord has given me leave. But, Beregond, if you can, do something to stop any dreadful thing happening." "The Lord does not permit those who wear the black and silver to leave their posts for any cause, save at his own command." "Well, you must choose between orders and the life of Faramir," said Pippin. "And as for orders, I think you have a madman to deal with, not a lord. I must run. I will return if I can." He ran on, down towards the outer city. Men flying back from the burning passed him, and some seeing his livery turned and shouted, but he paid no heed. At last he was through the second gate, beyond which great fires leapt up between the walls. Yet it seemed strangely silent. No noise or shouts of battle or din or arms of men could be heard. Then suddenly there was a dreadful cry, and a great shock, and a deep echoing boom. Forcing himself on against a gust of fear and horror that shook him almost to his knees, Pippin turned a corner opening on the wide place behind the city gate. He stopped dead. He had found Gandalf, but he shrank back, cowering into a shadow. Ever since the middle night, the great assault had gone on. The drums rolled. To the north and to the south, company upon company of the enemy pressed to the walls. There came great beasts, like moving houses in the red and fitful light, the Mumakil of the Harad, dragging through the lanes amid fires, huge towers, and engines. Yet their captain cared not greatly what they did or how many might be slain. Their purpose was only to test the strength of the defence, and to keep the men of Gondor busy in many places. It was against the gate that he would throw his heaviest weight. Very strong it might be, wrought of steel and iron, and guarded with towers and bastions of indomitable stone, yet it was the key, the weakest point in all that high and impenetrable wall. The drums rolled louder, fires leapt up, great engines crawled across the field, and in the midst was a huge ram, great as a forest tree, 100 feet in length, swinging on mighty chains. Long had it been forging in the dark smithies of Mordor, and its hideous head, founded on black steel, was shaped in the likeness of a ravening wolf. On its spells of ruin lay. Grond they named it, in memory of the hammer of the world of old, a hammer of the underworld of old. Great beasts drew it, orcs surrounded it, and behind walked mountain trolls to wield it. But about the gate resistance still was stout, and there the knights of Dol Amroth and the hardiest of the garrison stood at bay. Shot and dart fell thick, siege workers crashed or blazed suddenly like torches. All before the walls on either side of the gate the ground was choked with wreck and with bodies of the slain, yet still driven as by a madness more and more came up. Grond crawled on. Upon its housing no fire would catch, and though now and again some great beast that hauled it would go mad, and spread stamping ruin among the orcs innumerable that guarded it, their bodies were cast aside from its path, and others took their place. Grond crawled on. The drums rolled wildly. Over the hills of the slain a hideous shape appeared, a horseman, tall, hooded, cloaked in black. Slowly, trampling the fallen, he rode forth, heeding no longer any dart. He halted, and held up a long pale sword, and as he did so a great fear fell upon all, defender and foe alike, and the hands of men drooped to their sides, and no bow sang. For a moment all was still. The drums rolled and rattled. With a vast rush, Grond was hurled forward by huge hands. It reached the gate. It swung. A deep boom rumbled through the city like thunder running in the clouds, but the doors of iron and posts of steel withstood the stroke. uh, withstood the stroke. Then the black captain rose in his stirrups and cried aloud in a dreadful voice, speaking in some forgotten tongue, words of power and terror to rend both heart and stones. Thrice he cried, thrice the great ram boomed, and suddenly, upon the last stroke, the gate of Gondor broke. As if stricken by some blasting spell, it burst asunder. There was a flash of searing lightning, and the doors tumbled in riven fragments to the ground. In rode the Lord of the Nazgul, a great black shape against the fires. Beyond he loomed up, grown to a vast menace of despair. In rode the Lord of the Nazgul, under the archway that no enemy ever yet had passed, and all fled before his face. All save one. There waiting, silent and still in the space before the gate, sat Gandalf upon Shadowfax. Shadowfax, who alone among the free horses of the earth endured the terror, unmoving, steadfast as a graven image in Rath Dinen. "You cannot enter here," said Gandalf, and the huge shadow halted. "Go back to the abyss prepared for you. Go back. Fall into the nothingness that awaits you and your master. Go." The Black Rider flung back his hood, and behold, he had a kingly crown, and yet upon no head visible was it set. The red fires shone between it, and the mantled shoulders vast and dark. From a mouth unseen there came a deadly laughter. "Old fool," he said, "old fool, this is my hour. Do you not know death when you see it? Die now, and curse in vain." And with that he lifted high his sword, and flames ran down the blade. Gandalf did not move, and in that very moment away behind in some courtyard of the city a cock crowed. Shrill and clear he crowed, recking nothing of wizardry or war, welcoming only the morning that in the sky far above the shadows of death was coming with the dawn. And as if in answer there came from far away another note. Horns, horns, horns. In dark Mindalluin sides they dimly echoed, great horns of the north wildly blowing. Rohan had come at last. And that we will stop there. Oh, it's my favorite bit. It's my favorite bit. I love it so much. I almost read it again. Shrill and clear, he crowed, recking nothing of wizardry or war, welcoming only the morning that in the sky far above the shadows of death was coming with the dawn. As if in answer there came from far away another note. Horns, horns, horns. In dark Mindalluin's sides they dimly echoed, great horns of the north wildly blowing. Rohan had come at last. They make me also go in very yes. I am the there's uh, it's just so it just makes me go so insane. Just the imagery of it. Cause the cockerel doesn't care. The cockerel doesn't care. The cockerel is waking up because the dawn has come, and Rohan arrived has come too. It because it's the way the cockerel is heralding hope. It's the way the cockerel is almost crowing with the horns that that give hope at the end of hopelessness, at the very last, and that is so poignant, that is so impactful, and it hits me so hard every time, and it makes me so feral, it makes me so excited. Exactly. Yes, that is a very good point. The cockerel and the fox are yes, both vital in the beginning and the end. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like just after the beginning and just before the end, which I really like. It's as if the fox arriving is coming to tell you that things are about to take a turn for the worse, and the cockerel is telling you that things are about to take a turn for the better. Um, Not for me though, of course, but I still appreciate the symbolism. I still appreciate the narrative, the like emotional like check. It's like you pass it and it's keeping you, yeah. The book never lets you it never lets you wallow in despair and misery. The book is like there is despair and misery in this book, but you reading it, you don't actually have to wallow in it. I'm never going to I'm never going to keep you in a state of persistent misery. And the climax of all of these things will be um unimaginably satisfying. uh I do like I mean again, Peter Jackson, why did you do everything that you did with the Siege of Minas Tirith when this is the most cinematic visual masterpiece in my head? Uh, like like why why did you like minimize why did you minimize the actual like commander of the army? Uh, like the literal Nazgul, the king of all of the Nazgul, and then gave us possibly the most horrific example of a of like just I can't even think of a good word for it because they're just all the worst words. But yeah, do you all remember Gothmog in the film? That was crazy. that was actually I think Peter Jackson was more racist and more ableist than Tolkien was. I think Peter Jackson went ahead and made a film somehow that managed to be more racist and more ableist than the actual books were. And it was a feat. It was a feat. Amazing. And for what? For what? What did they do this for? Why did they put this orc in here? Why did they put this orc in here? I, we apparently we needed the spicy alien. Why did he take away? Why did he take away time? Why did he literally just take away screen time of the actual the actual commander of the army of whom it is important that Gandalf faces for this random original character orc that's possibly the most the most disgustingly ableist uh, 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 caricature I've ever seen in my whole life. It is a different story and it is also worse. I'm just gonna say it. It's also worse. It's a different worse story. It's a different worse story. Uh, like, uh, and in the extended edition, they do Gandalf confronting the Witch King. They do it, but it's like this side bit in the middle of nothing, and he just and he's still on his winged guy, so he just kind of arrives in the middle of the city for some reason, just like lands and then breaks Gandalf's staff and then flies away again. Can't even remember how he survives that one. It's yeah, it's just on a random wall, and I don't know, and like has no plot. Like it's such a side. Yeah, it's in the extended edition. It's on a side, like it's like a weird side plot. Yes, and then the staff is magically back later. It's yes, exactly. Gothmog is a direct caricature of it like I mean it's like a mix of a kind of what's the word? I'm thinking of a condition. Paralysis. There's like a paralysis to it, but also it's kind of like sort of caricaturing autistic way people hold their arms. I, what what? No, it's not even the usual. I literally I do like watching Gandalf Staff break, but again, it's crazy that that's not in the main film. Like, fine, have Gandalf Staff break. I think that does that happen in the book? I honestly can't remember, but why is it a side? Separate? Yes, he's like crawling his way to try and kill Eowyn. And and then just I'm pretty sure it's Gimli just like runs past him and kills him. Just like lops off his head or something. Like it's so I mean, this is a thing that Peter Jackson used to have to do. He has to kind of sideline the real characters in the book to create these disgusting little creepy like they're not it's not like they're like Ratgloss version creepy little men. It's just they're just incredibly uncomfortable, incredibly disgusting, miserable characters that nobody wants to see, but apparently Peter Jackson needs them in his film. Yes, then there's that's true. It's a surfing on the Mum but which well, if he needs to, again, it's I mean Legolas's whole portrayal in the films is so it's so sad. It's so sad that he went from literally not having the biggest character in the books to just simply not having any character, but I'm too cool. I'm literally too cool. I make you all feel terrible watching this because it's like everybody's struggling, and then there's me. I'm doing fine apparently. Uh, because for some reason Peter Jackson was just like super into elves in the most boring way possible. Ugh. I mean, I think that was probably Philippa Boying and Fran Walsh. The Ghost Army we will get to. We'll get to the Ghost Army, yes. But it's still, but like all of those, like you can still have that in the film, and the film be generally good because you aren't like. But this is literally removing an actual plot beat, like a very important plot beat and a narrative like character beat for Gandalf as a character to be properly defeated again. Uh, like he needed to be defeated. I think that was important. Ah ha ha ha. Ah ha ha how well that wins. Shall we talk about that right now? I guess we've only been going for an hour. I could talk about it right now. So let's talk about it now. Hey Des, we're gonna talk about it now. We're gonna This is your last chance to tell us not to talk about it before I get started. So I mean I suppose we could talk about it now and then we will be reinforced when we get there. Yes, oh my God, a proper visual of Denethor and Faramir laid side by side under a single sheet is oof. But yeah, so Denethor, this whole time, all of this whole time, has the Palantir up his sleeve. Literally, it's literally up his sleeve. Like I couldn't make this up. He actually has it up his sleeve the whole time. So, um, so so that's something you have to kind of remember. Yes, vague disabled syndrome. Yes, yeah, that is what they said. They did say that with Gothmog. Sorry, but yes. So Gandalf has the Palantir up his sleeve. Now, what we know and what Gandalf himself has actually sorry, Denethor did I just say Gandalf had the Palantir up his sleeve the whole time? I can't remember. I'm very tired, but we're gonna get through this one last bit before we end. Um, so Denethor has the Palantir up his sleeve this whole time. Even when he's sitting next to Faramir, he took it. Because there was no other time. He took it when he left. When he left the tower after seeing, as he says, that Frodo has gotten the ring. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Uh, uh, but yeah, so Denethor, I do mean Denethor, I'm not talking about Gandalf. So, so he's seen Frodo. So yeah, so the assumption we have is that he's seen Frodo captured, right? Like Frodo has been captured. He is up on the tower. He is captured. And Denethor is aware that that is the case, and Sauron is aware that that is the case because that's what Sauron would have showed him. He wanted him to see this. Now, at this point in time, the last time we left Sam. Last time we left Sam and Frodo. Frodo was in the tower. Sam was going to go get him. He hasn't gotten him yet. So Denethor was given a vision of Frodo in the tower, and Sauron was gloating. At least that was the assumption. Sauron is gloating. Um, and so you have that image in your mind. You have, like this is the moment that the Denethor is looking at. He's looking at Frodo in the tower with Sam going to go get him. But what you also have to know is that I think I might have described this in somewhere else. But what you also have to know is that um whilst Denethor is a rightful user of the Palantir, he's a better user of the Palantir. He is good at what he does. Um, Sauron is not. He actually can't use the Palantir that well. He's not that good at it. So, there is a thing that says in the Unfinished Tales, there's a little line in it that says that a good user of a Palantir could narrow in on an image so much that he can see a ring on someone's finger. Um, so and I think Tom Shippey, I think actually the situation is that Tom Shippey interpreted this as Denethor. This is why he says that Denethor saw the Corsairs instead. Um, is because Tom Shippey is thinking that he saw the Ring of Barahir. But again, that makes no sense. As we've said, uh, even a ring, yeah. Uh, uh, but as we've said, that wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't make sense that Denethor has seen the Corsairs. He knows the Corsairs are coming, and also he literally just moments ago said that the reason he feels so hopeless is because the enemy has gotten the ring. So, and that is what Sauron showed him or wanted to give him. So here's our supposition. Denethor saw Frodo had been captured because yes, Sauron wanted him to see it. He wanted him to see it. He wanted him to lose faith. And he did because yes, you have gotten that is the Hobbit and all that. But he did also see Sam because the Palantir can penetrate even that. It can penetrate a lot of things and flesh as well. So and also Sam has the light of Erendil. So it seems very plausible to me that um Sauron is certain Sauron is certain that he saw Sauron is certain that he saw the ring Sam. Sorry, no. Sauron is certain that he saw and has captured the ring from Frodo. Um, and but he didn't see Sam, but Denethor did. Denethor saw Sam attempting to rescue Frodo. But in Denethor's mind, if this is the end, surely we like there's no way. But also on the other hand, he could actually try. He could in fact try and help one last time by bringing the Palantir to his death and using it because he does. No, no, because he just said in the book, he just said in the book that the enemy has gotten the ring. He literally just said it. Reklos, he literally just said it. No, oh no, Sauron, you mean? No, Sauron does. Sauron, his captains have told him. Frodo was captured, and Frodo is the halfling, and the halfling therefore has the ring with him, and so Sauron believes that he's won. And so no, 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 Denethor knows. He says the enemy has gotten it. The enemy has the ring. No, he says it. Reckless, he says it. He says it in this book. I'm gonna read it to you again. He says it. Hang on. He says. Check on who then? Check on who? Hang on. The enemy has found it, and now his power waxes. He sees our very thoughts, and all we do is ruin us. It's not, I think the enemy has found it. No, he doesn't. What are you talking about? No, he doesn't. No, okay, listen, I'm gonna finish my thought before I'm arguing with Ratglass. The basic premise is that Denethor brought the Palantir to his death in order to draw Sauron's eye away from in a kind of last-ditch attempt to try and help Gandalf with this crazy plan that he doesn't think is going to work. But even if it doesn't work, I'm still gonna try. And no, no, Sauron is aware that there is a halfling carrying the ring. Sauron is aware that there's a halfling carrying the ring. He knows that because Saruman knows that, and they all know that. What on earth are you talking about? I need to stop. I need to stop. I need to stop. I need to stop arguing with Ragnar. So by bringing the Palantir to his death, why does he? No, he doesn't. That's not true. Aragorn didn't put himself. Yes, he saw Aragorn in the Palantir. That doesn't mean he thinks that he has the ring. Just because he saw him in the Palantir, he's just Aragorn was just doing that to draw him out. Yes, he's the new challenger. Doesn't mean he has the ring though. That doesn't necessarily. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Does not mean he has the ring. Just because Aragorn has arrived and yes is a new challenger does not mean he thinks he has the ring. And even if he suppose that Aragorn has the ring, upon finding two hobbits, fine, do Mordor me. Do Mordor me. Upon finding two hobbits in his land trying to get to Mount Doom, I think he would then assume that maybe the ring is with him, actually. No, I think he would. He's not like fully dumb. The point I'm making is that the only reason no these things. You don't know these things. The point I'm making is no, I'm not. No, please nothing. The point I'm making is that a good reason for why Denethor would have brought the Palantir. But the mouth of Sauron can say whatever the fuck it likes. It might. They might think he's desperate. Okay, all right. We'll settle this later. But even if Sauron doesn't... Alright, fine. We'll go with your version. Maybe I'm completely wrong about Sauron knowing about the ring. I don't actually think I am. Dessa should be in here. But... Well, that was after, though! That was after! That was afterwards! He thinks he has it now because he hasn't... We can't do this. We can't do this. We can't do this. That was because yes, of course, no ring is found with Frodo. No ring is found with Frodo, but that's after this whole thing has happened. That's after this whole thing has happened. It's after Frodo has escaped, which he knows. He knows Frodo has escaped. So that whole thing happens afterwards. He assumes that they don't have the ring. No, they capture a halfling. They capture a halfling, and they think, oh, that's probably and then they don't find the ring. So that's what the guy says. He does. There's no ring on him. Ugh, I'm not. No. No. You'll have to come and murder me. I'm not giving up this idea. It does not. It does not. It does. I do not see the things you are saying as it in any way refuting the idea that Sauron at some point believed that he had the ring, because he found two halflings in his and he was notified. No, because I actually can't do this. I actually can't do this because I'm very sleepy. But I can't. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this with you. I'm not doing this with you just yet. I'm very sleepy. The theory is that the reason why you would take a Palantir with you to your death scene, you as a person who has been defying Sauron for a really long time, and who seems very sure that the enemy has the ring. It seems very sure about it. You would you would try to draw Sauron's gaze away from where he was looking, which would be towards you. He would definitely want to see it, and we know that he does. We know that because it's like glowing red. The Palantir glows red whilst Denethor is dying. And because Sauron wants to see it, he wants to see this. This is exactly what he wants to happen. So, which Denethor knows. Denethor is fully aware that Sauron wants to see this happen. This was actually, in fact, the end he was getting towards. So by taking the Palantir and I mean, and Denethor was not just like holding the Palantir and using it. He was like fully putting all of his will into making sure that this was a spectacle. Because you know you have the Palantir then burned with his hands just like holding, reaching out with it, which to me seems like that would be a lot of will you'd have to put towards literally changing the whole aspect of a Palantir to now just show that one horrifying image. Uh, uh, Even for fucking Aragorn, who is supposedly the right to use a Palantir. Um, and so Sauron wasn't looking. He wasn't looking when Sam rescued Frodo. That is the theory that we have, or the theory of why Denethor would have taken the Palantir up there with him in the first place. And why you would have done that, because it doesn't make any sense, really, otherwise. Because again, if Denethor did not, if this was very simply just him saying no, no more, which it was for sure. He still doesn't actually think this is going to work. But if it was only that, then why would he bring the Palantir with him? I overthink it? No, Denethor knows that. Well, okay, yeah, he doesn't overthink it. He literally absolute thinks it. He completely thinks it. He thinks it correctly because they do have the ring. Like, what are you talking about? They literally do have the ring. It's in Mordor. It's in Mordor. It's in Mordor. So why would well, okay, all right. So Sauron shows. Okay, all right. I mean, I guess that works too. If you want, if that's the case, Sauron is like, "Hey, we've got your spy," and Denethor's like, "Oh no, that's the guy with the ring." Oops. And then he tries to. That'll work too. No, come on, what? I still don't see this. Again, you're putting words. You're saying overthink when Denethor for sure is correct. Essentially, he's essentially correct. Frodo has been captured, and that is the guy with the ring. And Denethor has made exactly the correct assumption in that case. Well, I mean, that I don't know about. I mean, that's a supposition about his behavior that I don't know about. I feel like Sauron would like. What do you want him to do? Have a panic attack? You want Sauron to have a panic attack? Please, please, Reckles says. He said. They say please. Okay, all right. I will listen. If I will. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, he has a panic. Okay, he has a panic attack about Aragorn, but I always assumed that was because I always assumed that was because Aragorn is the king. Is the whole king shit. He's anointed by God, and Sauron's like, oh no, not that, not anointed by God. What's the king? Oh no, and he puts all this fucking weight into. We'll get to it. We will get to it. I'm we'll stop now. We've been arguing about this for 20 minutes. We've been arguing about this for 20 minutes. But we'll get to it. And if you are correct, I will be very contrite about it. I will be very contrite about it. You'll feel so much vindication when we get there and you're proven right. But uh 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 but we'll get to it. We'll get to it. It's a way away. We've not even gotten far, not even into the fucking through the Druidane yet, and we haven't even gotten to back to Frodo and Sam yet. We've got a ways to go. I'm so sorry, Reckless. I'm so sorry to make you so angry at me. um, but we'll get there. Admittedly, again, I have not read this book in a in a while. It's been a few years since I properly read The Lord of the Rings, which is why I'm doing it again. Um, because I finally have brain and thought to actually put down thoughts. Oh, I'm so sorry, Reckless. No, it's okay. Um, I do get your point, and I will, and we'll get to it. We didn't mention the very funny, um, like in the book, it is very ominous. This idea of this invisible head with a crown on it, and with the flaming pauldrons. I need to throw it out. I that later tomorrow maybe tomorrow maybe. I am. Hang on. Let me see. Flaming pauldrons. Kingly crown. Red fires shone between it. And in the mantled shoulders, vast and okay, yes. So so he has a floating crown, and there's a little fire in the middle of it. And then his pauldrons are also on fire. Which is also something I would have assumed that fucking he's so dramatic. He had a flaming sword, it's this pale flaming sword. This is also another thing I would have assumed that Peter Jackson would have liked. But no, we only get it in the animated film, and Rackles is right. It looks very funny in the animated film. Um, yeah. He's Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. Yes, I mean he kind of is. He kind of is. He's snotty enough, and I mean he's so like it's been such a long time. You're like waiting to see him. He's so scary. Ooh, and then he comes up and he's like hee 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 hee. We've won! I'm so excited about it. And very cartoonishly evil, which is funny. I'm very I find like he's just so much. He's just a better. This just a fucking better villain, a better commander to this. And it's just wild. Why did we? Why? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? I'm not over it. We've circled all the way back around. Denethor was trying to draw Sauron's eye away, but now we've circled back around to Gothmog. Gothmog, and why is he there? Why is he there and not the Witch King? I need to ask. I need to find Philippa Boy and I need to ask her. I need to ask her why she did this. I need to look her in the eye and say, why did you hate Denethor so much? And why did you think that this was good? Why did you think that Gothmog would be a good idea? Why? Tell me, please. Because like the other thing is that they give like in the expanded discussion. I think in fact they do talk about Gothmog in the fucking extended edition making of or whatever, and they're like, oh well, he despite his physical limitations, he was so determined that he crawled his way up the ranks, as if an orc is an inspirational figure to the disabled. Like, hey, disabled people, do you want to be inspired by this orc that we made? They really thought they really thought they really had no thought, and yet did put the worst thought into it as well. Which seems incredible. It seems incredible that they did that. And that they got away with it, and nobody like, come on, we need to take this to task. We do. I just, ugh, how am I supposed to live like this? Okay, all right then. You too can crawl your way through the wrecks. Yes, yes, you too can crawl your way through the fetid and terrible and capitalistic ranks of workers until you lead everybody, disabled people, and into their own deaths. And also like this bit where he rides over the bodies of dead orcs that have just been like crashed against this gate, and finally have been breached. Like we don't get enough of that. Like it's all a bit too funny. The orcs are all a bit too funny because like you know there's the guy who wears skulls on, like, I mean, I guess it's correct, but it's also just the kind of carelessness and lack of humanity that the Witch King displays is so much more poignant when you think about him, about all these orcs like just getting killed because he's present. His mere presence drives beasts into such a frenzy that these giant creatures just like kill anyone around them suddenly. Like they lash out, kill anyone around them. Um, Thank you for getting me the quote. I still mm, what? No, but that no, we can't we can't do this. I can't get this started. But all no, I can't. No, I'm gonna be so brave about not replying to this. I'm being so brave right now. Um but we'll do it. We'll keep the quote and we'll bring it back for the prelude. We'll do the prelude of the preamble of next week will be the preamble of next week will be um um that will be the preamble of next week, I promise. We'll do it next week. I'm just very sleepy. That's all. I'm very sleepy. But I do have something to say about that. I do have something to say about that. Even though yes, yes, absolutely. That does prove that they did at some point want, no, they did want to do that. And then he did. Yes. I accept all of that. You And that's my favorite time for that's my favorite Raklos feeling. It's very inspiring to me. Um, but yes, we'll do that next week. And I think I've run out of film bashing. I think I've done the film bashing. I think we've until next week when we will assume that we will have it to get into it again. But I think we've come to the end finally. A whole 40 minutes after I after I stopped reading, which I should have known. You have to listen to all of this. I'm so sorry, Reckless. I'm so sorry. But yes. So we will we'll get back to it next week, at the same time, and Ragnos can post their pre that quote, and then I'll say what I want to say, and then we'll fight again in the preamble for next time. Um, uh, we won't. I did promise. I promise I would not mention the series that is not to be named, or their crimes and sins thereof, that they could or could not be making, depending on rumor and speculation. I promised. I promised, and I will abide by that promise. Mm, I will. I will abide by that promise. For now, because this is not this is about the good book. This is not. This is about the book that is good. The book that is good in the Tolkien Legendarium. All the three books that are good in the Tolkien Legendarium, not the fucking bullshit nonsense Silmarillion whatever elf nonsense. Not the elf bullshit that apparently, well, God, but it's not going to be all built. Never mind. We're not talking about it anymore. We're not talking about it anymore, and that's it. We've come to the end of this stream. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all so much for coming. I had a great time as always, and I'll see you next week. Yes. Okay. Good night.